Upon completion of your training, you will be evaluated by a third-party tester. To become a licensed school bus driver, you are required to perform a pre-trip inspection. This training movie is designed to assist drivers in mastering a thorough pre-trip assessment of a DTC school bus. Inspecting your bus is more than a courtesy. It's actually required by law every time you drive the bus on the road. You must prove proficiency with the pre-trip process in order to acquire your school bus endorsement, but also to succeed in your annual evaluation. The third-party tester will offer the use of the DOT-approved pre-trip memory aid. This is the only memory aid that you will be permitted to use during your test. You may choose to modify the phrasing and the wording used here. However, avoid terms like good or fine because they're too vague and they won't be acceptable during testing. Treat the pre-trip process as if you're reading a book. Start from the left, going to the right at the top, and work your way down as you go along. Let's get started.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Lori.
Today you are here to do your pre-trip inspection. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I need you to please demonstrate that you know how to conduct a vehicle inspection as you would normally do for any vehicle you are about to operate. You are to conduct the vehicle inspection as outlined in the CDL driver's manual. You may use the vehicle inspection memory aid provided in the CDL manual. As you do your inspection, please point to or touch the items you are inspecting and fully explain what you are inspecting for each item. If you do not do so, you will not receive credit for that item. During the test, you will only inspect items down the passenger side of the vehicle. However, if there are things unique to the driver's side of the vehicle, you need to inspect those items as well. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I understand, and let's go.
Okay, thank you.
As you look at the front of the bus, say that all of the lens covers are the correct color and free of damage. Reflectors, if present, are the correct color, clean, and free of damage. At this time, you will need to open the hood. Unlatch both hood latches and open the hood from the front of the bus. Let's begin on the driver's side of the engine. Identify the power steering unit, noting that it is securely mounted and free of damage. You will need to know that it is gear-driven. Check that the power steering fluid is at an acceptable level. Check that the oil level is at the appropriate level. At this point, you can check that the steering box is securely mounted and free of damage. State that the hoses on the steering box are not leaking. The steering linkage is intact and free of damage. Moving around to the passenger side or curb side of the bus, identify that the alternator is secure and free of damage. You will need to know if it is belt or gear driven. If belt driven, you will need to mention that the belt is free of damage and has proper tension. Identify that the water pump is secure and free of damage. You will need to know if it is belt or gear driven. If belt driven, you will need to mention that the belt is free of damage and has the proper tension. Check to make sure that all the hoses are free from damage. Note that the hoses are not leaking and there is no leaking under the bus. Check to make sure that the coolant registers at the acceptable level. With the hood open, you will get a better view of the front suspension and brakes. Point to and say the leaf springs are intact and free of damage. The mounts are present and free of damage. The U-bolts are in place and free of damage. There is no leaking from the shock. Continue on to the brakes. Say that the brake pads and rotors are present and free of damage. There is no leaking from the brake line. Be sure to say that you would check the suspension and brakes on the other side as well. This concludes the inspection under the hood. Don't forget to latch the hood on both sides. When pre-tripping the tire, begin with the tread, checking for the proper tread depth of 4/32. Check the sidewall for condition. Note that there is no cuts or bulges. Be sure to say that you would check for proper pressure with a tire gauge. Note the rim is free of cracks, welds, or dents. All lug nuts are present and secure. Also note there is no leaking from the oil seal. The mud flap is secure. Be sure to mention you would check the other front tire in the same way. To begin pre-tripping the passenger or curb side of the bus, demonstrate that the crossover and side mirrors are securely attached and free of damage. Approaching the service door, demonstrate that the door opens freely, the windows and gaskets are free of damage. Taking a step back, starting at the top, say that all light covers are the correct color and the lenses are free of damage. The windows are clear and free of damage. The reflectors are present, the correct color, and intact. Mention that you would check all of the same things on the other side of the bus as well. Continue your inspection under the bus. Confirm that the drive shaft and brackets are in place and free of damage. The exhaust is intact and free of damage. That the frame is also free of any damage. When pre-tripping the rear axle, be sure to inspect and mention you will be checking both of the dual tires. Noting that the tread depth is at least 2/32 of an inch on each tire with proper spacing between. Check the sidewall for condition, stating that there is no damage. Be sure to say that you would check for proper pressure with a tire gauge. Note the rim is free of cracks or welds. All lug nuts are present and secure, and also note that there is no leaking from the oil seal. Be sure to mention you would check the other rear tires in the same manner. Point to and say the leaf springs are intact and free of damage. The mounts are present and free of damage. The U-bolts are in place and also damage-free. There is no leaking from the shock. Continue on to the brakes. Say the brake pads and rotors are present and free of damage. There is no leaking from the brake line. Remember to mention that you would check the suspension and brakes on the other side as well. Confirm that the fuel door opens easily. The fuel cap is secure. Looking under the bus, there is no leaking from the fuel tank. At the rear of the bus, beginning at the top, note that all of the lens covers are the correct color and free of damage. The reflective tape around the emergency door is present and free of damage. The reflectors are present and the correct color. The rear emergency door opens freely, and the windows are clean, clear, and free of damage. At this point, you will look under the bus, noting that both mud flaps are intact and free of damage. As you come around to the driver's side of the bus, continue to inspect the bus. On this side, you will verbalize any of the items not on the passenger side of the bus. You will say, the stop sign is secure. The lenses are the correct color and intact. The battery door is secure. This completes the exterior portion of the pre-trip. Let's move to the passenger part of the pre-trip. Note that the entry to the bus is clear and free of damage. The stairs and handrails are secure and also free of damage. At the driver area, inspect that the overhead or student mirror is securely mounted and free of damage. Say that the fire extinguisher is secure and fully charged. The 3 triangles are present and secure. The first aid kit is secure and complete. The hazmat kit is present and intact. Before inspecting the passenger portion of the bus, turn the key to the accessory position. This will allow you to check the rear emergency door alarm. The third-party tester will only require you to demonstrate one of 3 emergency exits for testing purposes. You will need to verbalize the other 2 exits. You will demonstrate the rear door exit. At the rear emergency door, note the door opens freely and the alarm sounds. Remember, you will only need to verbalize how the ceiling hatches and emergency windows open. While inspecting the seats in the passenger compartment, make sure you include that the frames are secure to the floor and the seat cushions are secure to the frames. Note that all seats are free of damage. You are ready to pre-trip the driver's area. When sitting in the driver's area, note that the seatbelt is in working order and free of damage. At this time, buckle your seatbelt. The seatbelt is the only automatic disqualification on the pre-trip portion of the test. Be sure that your seatbelt is buckled. The key has been in accessory position. Now turn it to the off position. Before starting the bus, be sure to confirm that the bus is in safe start. Note that the bus is in a neutral gear and the parking brake is set. While the gauges are cycling through, be sure to observe that the ABS light goes off. Make sure to mention each of the following gauges for working condition: the oil gauge, the temperature gauge, and the volt gauge. Check from the interior view that all of the dash indicator lights are working: the left turn, right turn, 4-ways, and the high beam. Be sure to test the horn. Test all the heaters, defrosters, and fans on both the high and low settings. Note that all mirrors are properly adjusted and the windshield is clean, clear, and free of damage. Test that the wipers operate smoothly and there is sufficient washer fluid. You will have 3 brake checks to perform. The first is the pump and hold. First, pump the brake 3 times, then press it firmly, listening for fading or leaking in the brake line. The second brake check will test the emergency brake. With the emergency brake engaged and your foot on the service brake, shift into gear to make sure the integrity of the brake will hold. Now, return the bus to park or neutral. The third brake check is the service brake. For this final check, you will be moving, so make sure that your seatbelt is buckled and check your mirrors for any traffic around you. Release your parking brake, shift into gear, and bring the bus up to 5 miles per hour. Warn your tester, then step on your service brake firmly while lightly holding the steering wheel. Note that the brake stops the bus and that the bus does not pull from the right or left. At this time, you will ask the third-party tester to check the lights around your bus. Ask the tester to signal you for each of the light systems you will be activating. You will be asking the tester to check the following around the bus: the red warning lights, the clearance lights, the hazard lights, the right and left turn signals, the headlights, the brights, the side signals, strobe, brake lights, and stop sign lights. Turn on the warning lights and open the service door, allowing the stop arm and crossing gate to activate. After the tester has acknowledged the working systems, close the door and cancel the warning lights. Great job! That concludes the pre-trip portion of your third-party test.
Thank you.